Space colony. Ark. This place. So familiar. But why? This is where I... Maria? Died?
Oh yeah, bring it on! Looks like the party's getting started. Time to rock and roll! You up for this, Shadow?
And greetings, I am Solidus-Skully and welcome back to Shadow the Hedgehog as soon as this video codec thingy starts to actually work. Which it doesn't seem to be. Okay, now things are getting good. Welcome back to the game, good and proper. Oh god, the audio was coming through, I was getting paranoid for a second. Anyway, Space Gadget, we are now up into space, Shadow was now reflecting upon his past, and we are getting to the point in the semi-hero storyline where I really feel like the game actually had some thought put into its writing. Like, I mean, I brought it up before with, you know, inconsistent character personalities, how some of them tend to be very generic, and even with Shadow throughout this game, again, you don't necessarily see it throughout the semi-hero storyline, but in a lot of the other story pathways, Shadow is very cavalier about his attitude. I don't want to entirely blame Sonic X for this, because it first showed up there, like in the Sonic Adventure 2 story arc, and a bit through the Meta X storylines, but here, he just seems to have, like in any other story path, he seems to have this attitude of, I'm just out for myself, which I think probably did build up the whole Shadow as the edgy anti-hero, which a lot of people ended up not really liking too much, and I guess I didn't really like it that much either, because I don't quite see Shadow in that sort of light. I mean, a little bit confident and boastful, yes, but not quite in the same vein as... fuck, what's a good character to use? I guess more in the vein of Velvet Crow from Tales of Berseria, and I'd say, to a certain extent, Jack from Jak 2 Renegade. I don't know. And again, it's something that you will see in the cutscenes to come, but I do legitimately think the semi-hero storyline has a sense of pathos to it that, had this been expanded into more of a full-fledged game storyline, I think this could have had potential to be a decent story, but unfortunately that is not the case. Anyway, getting to the level itself, our objective is to get to the Chaos Emerald. In fact, that's both the neutral and the hero mission. You know, a race for old time's sake, really. Although the thing of it is that since both neutral and hero objectives have you getting to the Chaos Emerald, in order to get the neutral objective, you have to wait for Sonic to win. So, yeah. And as for Black Doom's mission, we basically have to take out the orbital satellites, which I think I've only ever done once, and it wasn't a very fun mission, it was kind of bordering on tedious. And I only really did so just to see the sort of connective tissue cutscene that leads to the final stage of the neutral pathway, which honestly does bring up a lot of flaws with the, multiple pathway system, because, I mean, here you'll have Shadow, doing as he does. I mean, throughout this entire storyline sequence, he's mostly been, the similar sort of introspective Shadow we've seen in Sonic Heroes and Adventure 2, where he's, looking for answers, trying to figure out what his past has been about, and, then for no reason whatsoever, he suddenly goes, it all makes sense to me now. I'm an android. Guess I better go all the way back to Earth and invade Eggman's base. Because in the neutral storyline, he was supposed to be finding his own path, he ends up discovering that he's an android, even though he actually isn't. And yeah, that's why the neutral storyline is bullshit, even though it's the pathway that a lot of people tend to go for, because it's, the typical Sonic storyline of get to the goal ring, and that's that, which a lot of people tend to prefer. Which, I mean, as I mentioned before, I don't entirely blame, because, Sonic fans, they're expecting an actual Sonic game. But at the same time, though, I mean, with the way that Shadow is set up, I mean, to me, it has enough familiar Sonic elements to not really be... It doesn't really need to well, I mean, it does to a certain extent, because I do consider Shadow a main series game, despite the fans' insistence, and also the fact that Sega has tried to bury this game. But I mean, on the whole, I'd say Lost World is probably, or Lost World or Heroes, I think, are probably the only real extreme examples of that, but anyway, that's neither here nor there in this case. I will say, though, compared to the other Gadget stages, I kind of prefer Space Gadget to Crazy Gadget, because that was my least favourite speed stages in Adventure 2, but that's neither here nor there in this case. Also, if you use Chaos Control, if you can find a way to glitch yourself out and then press the triangle button, you can get some serious distance, which is amazing, because there's nothing cooler than watching you warp through the stage like a madman. And now we wait. And Sonic will continue to taunt us, so I suppose in the meantime, to kill some time, I may as well talk about something else Shadow-related. Like how we're not going to be getting a Shadow game ever again. Which is kind of depressing, because despite the fact that a lot of people are very iffy on this character, even by 2005 standards, you know, it would have been cool to see a sequel improve upon the gameplay formula of this game. And even if Sega handed it off to like a Western team and it wasn't Sonic Team, you know, still could have had some interesting ideas. I mean, the mid-2000s was all about third-person shooters, so, you know, would have been fun. Anyway, that's that. Sorry there, Shadow, old buddy. Yes, old buddy. A fine vintage of a Chaos Emerald. Anyway, now we are about to get some plot exposition, and some very emotional cutscenes, so I'll take a drink of the Pepsi, and you can enjoy.
Perfect. Damn it! What does it all mean? These memories, the doctor's actions and words. Nothing makes sense. Was it real?
It's been a long time, Shadow.
Who are you? And how do you know my name?
I know you, Shadow the Hedgehog. You killed everyone I loved. My family, Maria. I've been waiting all my life for this day.
What? Me? And Maria?
Maria was like a sister to me. She was the only family I knew. And because of you, she was killed. Witnessing it all, the plan to create that horrifying evil creature. That black creature and that insane professor who unleashed it all.
So, the professor created me with Black Doom?
You don't fool me! It's not just about Maria. Thanks to you, everyone I knew and loved was killed when the Ark was destroyed. Worst of all, my family! Finally, justice is served!
If what you say is true, then I will respectfully accept my fate.
You mean to tell me that you really don't remember a thing?
But I just need some time to uncover the real truth.
Legitimate pathos? What's that? Again, this really, to me, does sting a lot, because it's one of the few cutscenes that really shows how Shadow the Hedgehog could have been a really decent story. And I suppose, going back to my earlier tangent a few parts ago when I was comparing the Gun Commander to Anne Cunningham, it's the sort of character arc which I do like, but at the same time, the way in which they position the Gun Commander in this game, you know, how they try and give him a tragic backstory, and, you know, how Maria was part of his family and he lost her, and, you know, that whole tragic sort of spiel, I think it works, but at the same time, you're trying to get us to care about a character who, moments before this, was yelling and screaming in our face that, Shadow, you suck and I hate you, but I'm not going to tell you why until it's dramatically relevant. And I get that it's a thing in fiction to really, you know, save that for when it's relevant, to have it be a real dramatic twist, but at the same time, just suddenly trying to get us to care about that sort of character is tricky. It can be done, but at the same time, you also run the risk of, I don't know, making the player feel frustrated. I mean, you can avoid this in a movie because you can have scenes that show different characters in different places, but in a video game, yeah, it's a little bit difficult to separate, you know, the player character from the antagonist. And the Gun Commander is the antagonist, depending on what sort of story routes you take, but again, a character that I think is okay-ish just needed to be written better, which I guess could possibly just sum up Shadow's story as a whole. When you get right down to it, a lot of interesting concepts that just aren't that well executed. And that's something I do plan to talk about much later on, when I get to covering the other levels in Shadow the Hedgehog, especially in regards to him, because my god is that real waste of potential in a villain. Well, I suppose maybe I'll even cover it in the final story, actually, since I am also planning on finishing that off tonight, just as soon as I take care of a few things. Anyway, final stage, Cosmic Fall, as you can remember, Cosmic Wall, which is actually one of my favourite Eggman stages in Adventure 2. In fact, I'd say it is my favourite Eggman stage in Sonic Adventure 2. But I do really like this level as well. It has a real vibe of finality about it, as, you know, you're coming closer to discovering the real truth. And we will, because Shadow was headed right for Black Doom, but first we must meet a familiar face. So, with Vector, our mission is to find our way to the central computer structure, and, well, basically it ties in with the final story, which is part of the reason why I consider, you know, the semi-hero pathway to be more canon than any other ending. And again, I might as well explain it now since I'll probably not get another chance, is that not only do I think that this has more of a dramatic weight to it, you know, in terms of Shadow coming to terms with finding out the truth about his past and the weight that it leaves him with, but also in terms of the fact that, you know, it ties in better with what the Chaotix were doing throughout the plot, which, you know, they are, for as understated as it might be in the cutscene itself, they are pretty instrumental into finding out exactly what happened, you know, behind the Ark incident at the end of the day. Well, I mean, you already did sort of learn it here from the gun commander himself when he witnessed it through the port window, but you get to hear it from Gerald Robotnik himself in the final story, so, you know, there's a little bit more to it than this. Still, I mean, I suppose that being said, it does also raise the question as to what the hell the Space Colony Ark was doing with children on board. Because, I mean, the only reason that Maria was there was because she had a disease, which, you know, Gerald Robotnik was trying desperately to cure. And yet the gun commander is running around for reasons that aren't really explained. I mean, this isn't something that's explained like in an audio log or like a tie-in comic or anything, although I imagine if Shadow the Hedgehog was made today, that's probably how they would have done it, but, you know, that's neither here nor there in this case. I don't know. I suppose if I could say anything else about the semi-hero storyline, it's just something which shows how much potential this game could have had, but no, the rest of Shadow the Hedgehog had to be split into 6 of the pathways of what-if scenarios, which, you know, I don't think is necessarily that bad of an idea. It's just that you need to really focus on writing your story cohesively, and one thing I will say about the semi-hero storyline compared to the rest is that out of all the plots in Shadow the Hedgehog in terms of multiple storylines, this one has the most cohesion. And even that is a little bit shaky, because as you can probably tell throughout the story, there's a lot of moments where Shadow just sort of teleports in, which was written that way to compensate for the fact that you'll be jumping from place to place in order to at least find some sort of threadbare story cohesion. You know, which is more attention than you get with most Sonic games nowadays, considering the likes of fucking Care Bear Donutland or whatever, or Forces not really having a very developed plot when it's all said and done. But then again, I'm keeping my more bitter, cynical thoughts of the latest Sonic games out of this. It's time for more fun, fun, fun! This is quite a lengthy level, and I wouldn't let the time limit scare you. Again, this level, you can complete this level fairly quickly, it's just a matter of, well, not stopping for 5 minutes while you scratch your ass. Platforming challenges which don't really work. I think there is a lot of criticism that is directed towards Shadow's momentum. Again, I'm going to be slightly nerdy here and talk about the physics, because that's apparently the only thing that matters in a Sonic game. Compared to Sonic Heroes, I like how Shadow the Hedgehog controls, not only because of the fact that I think the levels are designed with Shadow in mind, you know, comparatively to Sonic Heroes, which shoved, you know, 3 different gameplay styles on top of each other without any sort of buffer or cohesion to them. And, you know, Shadow does have a bit of weight when he starts up. Like, he doesn't immediately take off the moment you sneeze on the analog stick, like in Sonic Heroes, which would send you flying off a cliff. And, you know, the platforming, I think, is just better designed with Shadow in mind, which is part of the reason why I don't really find a lot of problems with, you know, the whole Shadow being slippery. I mean, he is, and it isn't quite as refined as it was in Sonic Adventure or Adventure 2. But by that same volition, I think Shadow controls okayishly. Yeah, excuse me. And that's also the ending of the Dark Side story path, so yeah, you can potentially end this level early if you want. Again, both goals is pretty much get to the goal ring retrospectively. I mean, you have to get to the computer room, obviously, but that's really more of just an end goal, touch the end of it and you'll be done. So it's really no different. And also we have mechs. I should probably talk about the vehicles, although I'll save the cars and motorcycles and everything else for, you know, when I cover the other levels later on. But yeah, the mechs aren't quite as up to snuff as they were in Sonic Adventure 2. They are very clunky and the hover function is significantly slower than what it was before. But that being said though, and one of the things I like about Shadow's design, you are never forced to use these vehicles at any point in the story. Again, they are completely optional, and, you know, you can hop in and out of it at any time you feel like, to be perfectly honest. So, despite the fact that I think the complaints are valid to a certain extent, it's not terrible. And also, maybe it's just me, or because I've played this game for, like, nearly 15 years now. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, this game is nearly 15 years old! You know, I know how to handle the vehicles, so they don't control as terribly anymore. There we go. Yeah, it can be a little bit of a... I think this section is a little bit tricky, because for the most part you usually end up using Chaos Control here, if you bother to take out some of the enemies, which I usually do at this point. It's just sort of waiting for the stage to drop down and come to your level. Again, there won't be any point where you reach some pits that you can't really access, you know, without any sort of solid ground being there, I think. I'm trying to remember, I'm not... Probably should have cut this out, now that I think about it. At least I'm trying to think of it anyway. Because, I mean, this, as you can see here, the stage does raise and lower depending on where you're at, so you're not totally screwed up. It's just sort of waiting for a viable pathway. And if you are skilled enough, you can jump to higher platforms and then, you know, get access to some hidden goodies like the shadow crates I mentioned earlier, and get yourself down that way. And of course we have the artificial chaos, which have some really cool lighting effects to them, actually. Well, I mean, again, I will say they do look a little bit better than they did in Adventure 2, even if they aren't really that prevalent as enemies. And my video editor is lagging. Thank you very much for that. I hope to God my fucking audio isn't skipping over. Whee! Thank you for fucking skipping, you fucking cunt. You know, it's not as if I actually like to see where I am. There we go, that's better. Yeah, this is pretty much the final stretch of the level. You just jump on dash panels and enjoy the spectacle. And I suppose something I could probably talk about for the brief moment that we still have it here. This is also the first game to use the 4Kids voice cast from Sonic X, so yeah, by this point, the other actors were out. I think this... Actually, yeah, I don't know what it was really for. I don't know whether or not the previous cast had, you know, their contracts had expired, or it was because of the fact that, I guess Sega thought that more kids recognize Sonic X, you know, as a TV show, so they figured they use the voice actors as well. It seems a bit odd to me, but, you know, this is the cast I did more or less grow up with, so... Again, hearing Shadow and Vector voiced by Jason Griffith and Jimmy Zoppi, I'm pretty much used to by definition, so... It's not terrible, although I do think the voice direction could have been a bit better in this game. I'm gonna have to stop this now, because this thing is lagging as fuck. Anyway, we have now found the computer terminal, which looks like it was ripped right out of the Matrix. Anyway, I'm gonna stop this and take a drink of the Pepsi while you watch the cutscene.
What is this defiance?
Black Doom, I need to know the truth. Am I the one the humans refer to as the evil one? Tell me. I need to know.
It is true. I created you. You are a part of me.
Hey, Shadow! You okay?
If that's true, then I'll have to accept my responsibilities for my crimes. I will avenge the victims who died aboard the Ark on that tragic day.
The humans seem to have convinced you with this absurdity. Therefore, I have no choice but to kill you too.
Okay, so, final boss. Well, of the storyline, not of the game. Still have 10 other playthroughs to do, which, you know, I'll cut to the last story, obviously, but to talk about the Black Doom boss fight, this is actually one that I do like quite a lot. I mean, it's not a boss you can do a lot of damage to, because, you know, he's Black Doom, and you can only really get 3 hits on him before he disappears, but... excuse me. By using guns, you can take off a significant chunk of his health, which is brilliant. What Black Doom will do is that he'll give you an initial attack, then he'll stop for a bit, and then he'll fade away, here, attack you again with another attack pattern, and vice versa until he eventually starts getting clones of himself, in which case he'll start launching multiple attacks on you. And then when he gets to his most solid form, he will then, you know, stay still, and then that gives you a moment to get hurt. Well, it gives you a moment to hurt him, sorry. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's a bit of a game of waiting. It's a bit of a game of waiting around and seeing what you can do to him. But again, if you get Chaos Control, you can really mop the floor with him with how long you can keep him there. Oh yeah, one thing I should also mention, you usually have like a secondary character with you during a lot of boss fights, and they will dispense advice towards you, which, you know, is useful in places, although don't expect Vector, Sonic, or Omega to really do anything. I can't remember who the other character was. I think it was Knuckles, actually, who was also with you. Oh no, it was Knuckles and Rouge, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, they'll also be with you for the boss fights, but don't expect them to do very much. Thank you, Vector. Always the detective, that one. Well, I wouldn't say this is exactly my favourite boss of all the storylines. I do think it is far better than Diablon, which I will say is the worst in terms of having to, you know, wait for an opening, hit him, wait for an opening, hit him. It's mostly because of the fact that Diablon is a piece of shit, which I'll get to when I get to commenting on that boss fight, but that won't be until October, so stay tuned. Yeah, I would say that the worst attack is probably the meteors and the disc attack, but again, if you're careful enough, you will be able to stop him. And I think I activated Chaos Control at the wrong time, because he vanished. Oh, well, we do get to listen to this music, which I do think is pretty rockin'. Like I said, I do wish you could have just toggled the Chaos powers, like... I mean, in terms of the red Chaos Energy, you do get Chaos Blast and everything, but I wish you could have had, you know, maybe switched to Chaos Spears, or a couple of other weapon varieties that I can't really think of right now because, you know, I'm not designing a sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog. I really wish I could, though, if I just snuck into Sega's offices and said, "Hello there, Mr. Izuka-san, I have a proposition for you. Let's make Shadow the Hedgehog 2 the most extreme, dude, radical game that has ever been." I don't know, people love that sort of stuff, man. Like, I mean, even people who like to hate Sonic games because they're a piece of shit enjoy Shadow the Hedgehog because at least there's something to mock. No, I'm not gonna mock the modern Sonic games because that's neither here nor there in this case. Take that, Black Doom, eat missile launcher to the face. And I don't think I was supposed to hit him there because he was in his ghost state. Huh. Oh well, guess it counted. Take that, Black Doom, you are defeated forever! And by that I mean for like 5 minutes because we're going to be doing the final story in a little bit. Check out Vector's dance, man. That is some funkalicious stuff.
Finally, I've got all the Chaos Emeralds.
Shadow, this isn't over yet. The Black Arms will rise again.
I am Shadow the Hedgehog, a research experiment gone deadly wrong. I've caused so much destruction. I should never have been created. This is who I am.
Hey, don't go there! Yet, things may not be what they seem. You could be.
Okay, despite Vector's goofy voice acting kind of undercutting the drama of that scene, again, this is how you write Shadow the Hedgehog, man. He's got a lot of pathos and weight on his shoulders that this really is the storyline that should have been developed into a full-fledged game. Like, you're not fucking Shadow going, "I'm gonna conquer the universe." Fuck that shit. Ugh. Again, to give my full... well, I mean, I'll give my full thoughts on the overall game next time, but on the semi-hero storyline, as you could probably see all throughout the past 3 parts we've seen here, you know, this is how... the reason why I consider this canon. One, I think it captures Shadow's character in a similar light to Heroes and Adventure 2. And not only that, but it also capitalizes on some of the pathos that is set up at the beginning with the Gun Commander's hatred of Shadow. And, you know, Shadow coming to realize the destruction that his existence causes. And that to me is some powerful stuff, and, you know, if we had a game focused on this, it would have been fantastic. But again, I mean, even despite some of the earlier cutscenes in the game being a little bit, you know, rushed, you know, with Shadow being more standoffish, it is for understandable reasons, and, you know, there are a lot of things that bug me about Shadow's game, but this I wanted to highlight some of the things that I really enjoy about the game. As well as this theme song, actually, Chosen One by A2, or Mona Lisa Overdrive, as I think they were eventually called before they split up around this point. Again, I mean, this track was initially going to be called Broken, but due to some licensing rights with the lead singer not being around to sign off the sign off the licensing rights, that ended up falling through, but I really do like Chosen One. I'm the chosen one. Wish I may, wish I might, with someone else tonight. Cause I wish I was never born at all. That's very true in my case. Anyway, that was Shadow the Hedgehog's semi-hero storyline. Quite possibly my favourite storyline in the game, not only in terms of gameplay and level selection, but I don't know, just in terms of... I could go back and replay this story path time and time again and have a lot of fun with it. I mean, it's not just this story path as well. I mean, I can pretty much replay any of Shadow the Hedgehog, barring a few levels here and there, you know, with the utmost joy in my face, but again, that's... this game, yeah, there's a lot to say about it, and I will be saying about it in a couple months' time. You don't know what I'm talking about now, but you will, unless of course you're watching these videos from the future and do know what I have planned, like by the end of 2019, in which case, hello there. How's the end of 2019? Does life get any better? Have I posted more reviews? Am I okay? Am I still alive? Whatever. Anyway, that was the semi-hero storyline. One of my favorites. Anyway, I'm gonna go off and grab some dinner, feed my cat, and, well, we're gonna be finishing this. We're gonna finish it tonight, goddammit! So yeah, after this we're going to be doing the final storyline of Shadow the Hedgehog, which is the Last Way and the Devil Doom boss fight. And then we'll be moving on to the next game, because Shadow the Hedgehog was meant to be a temporary game that I was doing, because I couldn't decide on anything else after Resident Evil 2. I'm Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, see you next time, bye-bye.